Hey you guys, it's Britt. Tonight we're here to unpack this crazy situation that is starting to get a little more traction. Mom of 8 kids has recently started to share her journey as a recent widow, and there's a little bit of questionable titling, odd thumbnails, a little bit of strange timelines, and people just have a whole lot of thoughts. I was sent this by one of my long-term Instagram followers, and I also saw it over on a Reddit page, YouTube Vlogger Families, I think is the name of the page. They started talking about it too. So this is obviously got a lot of people confused, but I have some what you guys might think are hot takes depending on kind of what side of this you fall on. But we're going to talk all about it. This is going to be a really long video. I can already tell you because I have almost an hour of footage to react to with you guys. So before I babble, if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys, so the video that started it all was posted 9 days ago. It has 111,000 views, 3.5 thousand likes to 394 dislikes. And this woman at this point has 6.72 thousand subscribers on YouTube. She does also have a Patreon. And before we get into the actual reaction of this, I would like to just put it out there. I think that there is power in sharing your story on social media. I definitely think that there is a power in that, especially if you're going through something that you've never gone through before. And a lot of times going through being a widow is something that some people haven't experienced before, depending on, have you been married before? Did you lose your previous spouse? Like so on and so forth. And having 8 children, even if some of her children are older, still a really difficult thing to go through. So I realize that me reacting to this might be a little judgy, and that's fair. However, as I always say, once you put something out on the social media, it's there for public consumption. And whether the platform is Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, once it's out there, people are going to react to it, and nobody is obligated to feel bad for you, give you sympathy, like you, hate you. You can't guarantee what people on the internet are going to think. So we're going to give her the floor, and throughout all of these videos that I'm going to react to with you guys, which I do have sped up just a little bit for time's sake, but I'm going to pepper my opinions throughout, and I will give you the obvious disclaimer. I'm not a widow, I'm not a mother, but I am somebody who has a fair amount of common sense. Whether or not everybody wants to agree on that, that is a different conversation. But common sense is making me have a couple of questions, which I will share throughout. So, nevertheless, let's start with the video that she posted 9 days ago that says, "Suddenly a widow with 8 kids." And I would like to also note that her thumbnail is her crying, and it says, "My husband just died." So, for me, I'm thinking, wow, this just happened. This woman is, freshly a widow, and just automatically wanting wanting to click on her video and just give an outpouring of sympathy. But as we will find out in a little while, her thumbnails and titles are misleading. But we'll get there when we get there. So let's start from the top.
This is mom of eight kids. Now I'm a widow with 8 kids. 12 hours ago, my husband suddenly passed in our home.
in her description box, it says 1, 5, 4, 7, 10, 12, 16, 18, and 20. But that's, I think there's a typo in there. I think it's 1, 4, 7, 10, 12, 16, 18, and 20. So obviously the 18 and 20-year-old are not kids, technically. If you want to be technical about it. So she doesn't have a bunch of little kids that, are technically like still depending on her for everything. But I wanted to put that in the beginning here because she does have 2 kids that are technically adults. But let's keep going.
And he was rushed to the hospital, and we have 8 kids together. We were married for 20 years, and he was a lot older than me. He just turned 70 on June 23rd. And so I knew this day would come, but I have been dreading it for 20 years. I have been dreading this day. And so I haven't told the kids yet. Only the older ones know. This is our youngest one right here. He's over a year old. He was born in January last year. My youngest one here.
Obviously, I will be blurring out these kids' faces because they should not be on YouTube, point blank, period. But, there's been a lot of judgment about her having a husband that was 70 and, he's so old and all this kind of stuff. Here's how I feel about age gap relationships. With this situation, I really don't care that much. I do have a few questions about the fact that she was so young when they initially met, but they were obviously together for a very long time. And, the fact that he was 70 and people are saying, oh, well, you knew this was going to happen. That's what you get. That's what you get for marrying someone who is so much older than you. I just don't think it's the time or the place to tell somebody that's what you get when, even if her husband didn't just die like her title would make you think, he did die very recent. And I just don't feel like it's the right thing to go to somebody that lost their partner, their husband, their spouse of the last 20 years and say, oh, well, that's what you get. I just find that to be unnecessary and cruel. But let's keep going.
She's 3. She'll be 4. Just a minute. Those are the kids. They don't know I'm recording this. So the reason I'm doing this is because I think it'll help me a lot to have an emotional outlet to deal with this, because we don't have any friends and we don't.
So she's saying this will be helpful for me. But what I want to say is people that come on to YouTube and trauma dump, I just talked about this TikToker who trauma dumped on this unsuspecting barista at Starbucks. It's tough because I realize that it's very helpful to find a community of people who might have already gone through what you're going through, where you can share and collaborate and be somewhat of a support system. But later in this video, she also says that she has denied any mental health help or counseling that has been offered to her. And she's just kind of using YouTube as the place to dump all of this onto, anybody that will listen and maybe talk back to her. So I don't know. I find it to be a little irresponsible to say, I am not going to take any of the grief counseling. I'm not going to talk to anybody who is equipped and educated in this field to be able to help me. And I'm just going to rely on the internet and make these videos that are full of oversharing and showing my kids that are half naked, and just, it seems like it's one extreme to the other with a lot of these things that I come across on social media, and it's never like just kind of walking in the middle and balancing. Okay, I can share this stuff on YouTube, but I'm also going to rely on people who are trained and qualified to help me through what is obviously going to be a very, very difficult chapter.
Have any family members, because my family members didn't agree when I married the love of my life, my husband. So I stopped talking to all of them, and it's been like 20 years since I talked to anybody.
The text on the screen says only our two oldest children know about their dad's death right now. I do wonder why it sounds like she turned her back on her family because they didn't want her being so young marrying someone that was 20 years her senior. And now she could really probably use people around her to help her, and she's going through this alone and relying on YouTube to be her emotional outlet. So again, just curiosity, like my curious mind goes to, I kind of wonder what happened back then. Like, did they see an issue that she was not willing to see? And that is why they expressed concern.
The older ones know. My oldest is 20. He just turned 20 June 15th. And my second youngest, 18, he was there at the hospital with me. And we said our goodbyes. Although I tried to tell myself that he's not really gone. I tried to tell myself he's in a different place. And I get scared. I don't know how to...
She does these like slow zoom ins that make me feel uncomfortable from a viewer's stance, and I realize that my emotions and my feelings are not the epicenter of anything, but this is my channel where all I can share is how I'm feeling as a viewer, and it makes me feel very almost like claustrophobic and strange because these slow zoom ins are usually when she's very, very visibly shaken, and she makes sure to include the slow zoom ins. I don't know if my husband just died and I was coming to YouTube as an emotional outlet, and I had all these kids to still continue to take care of. I'm just not sure if creating any transformative content would be on my to-do list, but nevertheless, the slow zoom ins make me feel a little kind of like I want to back up from the screen.
Not have him around. We've been married 20 years, like I said. And I made a list of things to do tomorrow. So it's bank accounts. I gotta sort out some finances at the bank accounts. Prescriptions. My husband was on ODSP, so any prescriptions that my son, my eldest, and I need, which there are 2, we each need 1, I gotta get that filled out before the ODSP coverage ends. Try and get as much of that done because I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't work. And I'm not going to be getting my husband's income anymore. The ODSP coverage and the income and his pension too, because he was 70 years old. So that won't be coming in anymore. I'm going to streamline our bills. I'm going to try and cut out anything that is extra. Because
if y'all are Canadian residents, please tell me all about it down below in the comment section, because I'm not a Canadian resident, so I don't know everything. But the thing that I can say is, people become widows all the time. In Canada, in the US, all around the world. And they're typically, and I have to say, of course, conditions apply, but usually I wouldn't think that the spouse is just automatically cut off because they still need to collect those benefits that their spouse would have been collecting if they were still living. There are so many, I will use my own grandmother as an example. She was collecting my grandfather's pension once he died. It didn't get cut off, and I don't think that it matters, like, oh, well, this person is this old, and that, like, if they were collecting a pension, then the pension should go to the surviving spouse. But correct me if I'm wrong down below.
I also need to notify the ODSP, which is disability in Canada and Ontario. Tomorrow, the coroner is going to call me and tell me about it. Oh, that's baby. Move the
ODSP, I understand that side of it, but just to reiterate, I'm talking specifically about the disability, or I'm talking specifically about the pension side of things. the pension should be passed down to the surviving spouse, based on what I understand.
We have to get groceries, and I just got to sort out other things here. We're also living in housing right now, thank God, because rent would cost us twice as much, and if we had to go and find a place to rent, nobody would want to rent to a family with so many kids. So, sorry, my baby's there. He's just playing with some stuff that he shouldn't be playing with. Here, I gotta move that chair to block him. So, that's a little bit of a breakdown right now. I don't know how to tell the younger kids. My little one here, Empress, my daughter, she's okay. She doesn't know what's going on. My baby, our baby, doesn't know what's going on. He's fine. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 16-year-old, and she's my daughter, my 3-year-old. And this little guy here, I just put his hair in an elastic to keep it out of his face. So the idea and the plan is that tomorrow, right now it's pretty late, it's about 11 at night.
This is where people are going to probably be a little bit upset with what I have to say about this, but not telling your children that their parent died is completely irresponsible. It's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to them to be able to look back on this content and see that you were telling the internet all about everything while you were simultaneously not telling them about their own parent dying. I find that to be completely unfair, and I know that everybody has a little bit of a different stance on death and children and how you have that conversation. My very, how do I say this? My very generalized view is that children should be brought up in a death positive environment, because I feel like if they're brought up in a death positive environment, then they have less to fear, they have less to, kind of squirm at or be uncomfortable, and they might still be uncomfortable and have some really random questions, but based on what I have seen firsthand, I just feel like it usually will work out better. And no, I'm not saying tell, a 3 or 4-year-old all the details about why grandma died, but keeping it completely hidden from them is a bad idea. And that's how I feel. You can like me or hate me for it, but let's keep going.
When my 18-year-old is awake and my 20-year-old is awake, Empress, you're squishing the baby. That's when I'm going to have to tell our 16-year-old. His name is Adonis. That was my daughter. Bumped the camera again. And he was not doing so well a few years ago.
Not telling a 16-year-old that their parent died is wild to me. I'm going to cut this little part out of the video because she like totally over divulges about her 16-year-old's struggle with mental health. So I'm going to clip just this little section of the video because I don't feel like having it spread even further. I think that it's very embarrassing and could negatively impact this child because her videos are now going viral. So I will clip that small part out, but just know that she completely over divulges information about her 16-year-old child who has not consented to having his mental health issues plastered on YouTube.
I don't know how to tell the others though. I still have a 12-year-old. The baby's starting that again. I have a 12-year-old because we have 8. We had 8 together. And I kind of feel like a kid because I don't know how to live now without his guidance, because I was 19 when we got engaged. I was 20 when we got married. And now I have to do everything on my own, but thank God I have our children and our older boys. I think as long as we are there for each other, we don't need any outside help. At the hospital, they offered me counseling. But what are they going to do? I'm just going to talk to them and they're going to say yes, yes, no, whatever they're trained to do. And I think it would be more meaningful talking to our family, our boys, my older boys, and be there for each other. Because like I said, I don't have any friends. We kept to ourselves. We're very busy in our household taking care of our family.
I find it interesting because there are multiple times in these videos that she posted that she flat out says that the mental health counseling that has been provided to her and her children is pretty much useless to her. And I realize that everybody grieves a little bit differently. Everybody has their own set of emotions, and grief does not look the same to everybody every single day. And some people get through it very slowly, some get through it faster, some people do this, that. So I can't say, oh, well, this is the right way to grieve or that's the wrong way to grieve, because that's your journey. And, you know, whatever you feel is best, fine. To completely shut out people who are qualified to help when she is so clearly struggling and she has not found her own way to help herself through this, while simultaneously shutting out other people that are qualified, is, I think, the part that is a little different to me.
And my father passed away. My mom I don't talk to. My sister I don't talk to. And they don't even live nearby. They live far, far away. So does my husband's relatives. And I'm not really close to my husband's relatives anyway, so he hasn't spoken to them in a very long time. He had a falling out with his sister 20 years ago over the death of an uncle, and so he doesn't talk to her. So that's it for now. That's the plan. And like I said, one of the things that hurts so much is how to tell them. I've been keeping it in right now. It's been 12 hours. I don't know how much longer I can keep it in, but I'd like to wait until my two oldest sons get up, so at least we can do it together. And so thank you for watching. I appreciate your support, please. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Now, I need to put a trigger warning, a content warning for this next section, because she is going to go into somewhat graphic detail of the way that her husband died and kind of the condition that he was found in. I understand if it is upsetting for you guys, so I just wanted to put that there. Check the timestamp and we will get through this next section, so let's go.
He was found in the kitchen on the floor. He wasn't breathing, and I'm trying not to cry. I want to tell you that the kids saw him on the floor. I saw him on the floor. I checked the breathing and I called the ambulance, but it was, the kids think that he's in the hospital and that he's still going to come back. So they think he's going to come back still. They're okay, the younger ones, and my 16-year-old too. Like I said, the only ones who know is my older two sons. And I hardly ate anything. I'm tired. And I found him, he was on the floor, like passed out with vomit coming out of his mouth. And we were all home. We were all home. And his head was turned to the side, and I thought that would be okay because I'd seen this happen before. He takes some of his heavy pills, and I thought it was acid reflux. And so I thought he would sleep it off, but...
I'm sorry, if somebody is laying on your kitchen floor and they have anything coming out of their mouth or their ears or their eyes or their nose or anything like that, you don't just leave them there to sleep anything off. And I am no doctor, I am no nurse, y'all already know that. But common sense is, and she says that her husband was on these heavy pain medications for an extended period of time. Why on earth would you think that him laying in your kitchen floor with anything coming out of any cavity would be something that should just be slept off? Like, you just walk by and like let him continue to rest? To me, that is very strange, but let's keep going.
They think that one of his lungs filled with the vomit, and they think that's what happened, and he was already dead when I saw him on the floor. He was snoring, and I noticed that he was very quiet, so I went to check him out, and I thought he was breathing shallow, and I tried to wake him up. I couldn't wake him up. I was shaking his arm. I was calling his name, Eugene, Eugene. And so I knew he wouldn't like me to call an ambulance, but I did anyway, and it was already too late. She told us to do heart compressions until the ambulance came. Ambulance came very fast. They worked on him. They worked on him for about 20 minutes, and then they took him to the hospital, worked on him again for another 3 hours. And they got me to try and talk to him towards the end, but even though they had got a pulse, they had lost it twice. The first time they shocked him back to life because I told them that he has kids and he has a young baby, young children at home, and so his heart was, the pulse was very weak, and each time they got it beating again, it was, that's just when my kids coming in, one of my little ones, it was just not as strong a heartbeat, and finally it stopped, and they gave him every medicine they could. They couldn't shock him back to life again because his heartbeat, I guess, wasn't strong enough to do that. So I stayed with him for quite a while afterwards. I didn't want to leave him. My 20-year-old eldest was there with me, and he came just right at the end with my 18-year-old to talk to him, but they just made it at the end, but he probably had already had suffered brain damage because his heart just wasn't pumping enough blood to the organs and his and his brain, so he would have suffered brain damage. But I would have been okay with him not being the same man as the doctor said. I would have been fine because I would have still had him to talk to and to hold his hand. I would have been fine, you know, but now it's just us, and I have to be very cautious not for any of us to fall down the blame game, because he had.
One thing I want to say really quick is that even if I have a couple of red flags, a couple of questions, a little bit of criticism based on all these videos, I want to say loud and clear that nobody should have to go through this, and nobody should have to go through this alone. And that's also why I'm taken aback by her fierce denial to accept the help that's being offered. This is obviously a mother who is in crisis, and it's painful to hear such a fierce denial of accepting any help. And she talks so much about worrying that she's going to be basically blamed and prosecuted for her husband's death. And we'll get more into that as she goes on. But I would just want to say the very obvious thing that nobody should have to go through this. And it makes me sad that she's having to go through it alone, and to still continue to care for kids when she hasn't even been able to take care of herself. That makes me very sad. Her description box on this video, by the way, also, it was published September 29th. And based on this description box, you would really think that it literally just happened. It says, haven't told the kids yet. Raw emotion and outpouring of grief. From a happy family with mom, dad, and 8 kids to now a widow with 8 kids. Now this grave loss has caused a ripple effect, not only in our daily lives, but financially, as well as emotionally, and great looming uncertainty. On the kind advice of some viewers, I've set up a Patreon account. If you feel so inclined to donate $2, I seriously thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And that's the only tier on Patreon that she has, and she has 88 members as of today, which is October 8th. Let's keep going.
Already been dead a while. He had stopped breathing for a while when I found him, and I had seen him on the floor earlier, but I thought that he took his prescriptions, his what he called knockout pills, because the pain gets too bad. If he doesn't take his prescriptions, then he suffers a lot of pain. If he does take them, it makes him feel sick, and it seems to also have a cumulative effect after day too. He actually stopped taking his pills for a week up until 3 days ago, and he was fine when he wasn't taking it, but the pain got too much.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, even if somebody in your house is taking this medication that makes them tired or drowsy or whatever, if they're laying in the kitchen floor, you don't just walk by them and let them, nap it off. That to me is very strange.
So he started with some, you know, he had a racing heart, so he had a pill for that, and two others, I think, I can't remember their names. And I'm just looking, oh yeah. So when the ambulance drivers came in, I found this. They left this behind. I'm not sure what this is. Here, can you read that? I'm not sure what that's for, but that's just one of the things that they left behind. And it's like a great unknown now. It's unknown getting along without him. And we were all very close. We were a tight-knit family. And so I stayed with him. I held his hand for a very long time. I don't know how long. Until the coroner came. And then my 3-year-old had to go pee. She wasn't with me, but she was there at the hospital because I didn't think that my 16-year-old at home who was babysitting the younger ones, I didn't think that it would go well for my 3-year-old. I think she would probably be complaining she wanted to come the whole time. So he is going to the next city. They sent him to the next city, and they're going to be doing an autopsy on him. And my husband, he actually had a wish not to. He wanted to be buried intact. In fact, he didn't want to be buried at all. He wanted a mausoleum.
Does she not think that her 16-year-old is going to see all of these videos? That's kind of strange to me.
But we can't get a mausoleum, and he doesn't want to be buried, and he wanted to have his whole body intact, so he didn't want to be embalmed. But they're going to do an autopsy on him tomorrow, and I'll get a call about that from the coroner when he hears from the doctor doing the autopsy. So,
if you're married to somebody who is 70 years old, or they're approaching 70, and you have 8 children, and you're in government housing, and you're, you know, hardly getting by, would it not be something that maybe these conversations should have taken place, and maybe there could have been a better plan for her who, you know, would be the surviving parent left with 8 children? I just feel like the planning process, and I get it, okay, like people that are way younger than 70 die all the time for miscellaneous reasons. But when you're literally with somebody who is approaching 70 and you have young children, I feel like that there could have been a little bit of a different approach so that she wasn't sitting here in crisis, worried about, you know, oh, thank God I'm in government housing because nobody would want rent, and I don't have money for rent anyway, and how are we going to do groceries, and we have to, you know, worry about all of this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. Let's go on.
it's been hell. Time seems to go by so slow. And I was told by the nurse that I should probably think about a funeral home, but we're not going to have a funeral. I think that'll just make things worse. I think we've never been to one. We're unfamiliar with it. That would just scare the kids, I think. So I don't believe we're going to have a funeral, but I think cremation might be the only option. At least then if we move or something, we can take him with us, because we lived in Ontario, we lived in Saskatchewan. Yeah. We almost moved to BC twice. And so my 19-year-old, he's going to go to his last year of school. He graduated, but he can go one more year, which is kind of like grade 13. So he'll go, and we will try, and I don't know how I'm going to make these next 40 years of my life without him, because we were married 20 years. We were married 20 years, and I'm 40 now. My grandmother lived to be 82, so I've got half of my life now. I have to go without him. And we had a very close relationship, and I wasn't going to ever get married because, I wasn't going to get married. Like, when I knew this day would come, I told him that, and I promised him that, of course, and he would be looking down on me from heaven and guiding us. And so we could all be together in heaven again. But now I have to go half of my life, half of my reasonably lifespan without him. And
She's not wearing a wedding ring in these videos that she's posted, so I'm not sure. Maybe they're the type of couple that didn't have wedding rings. I'm not sure. Everybody has their own set of beliefs, but I did find that to be very interesting that you know, you're suddenly a widow and you're worried about being caught or blamed for your husband's death and you're not wearing your wedding ring. I'm not sure. It's just, it presents a little odd to me as a viewer, but let's keep going.
trying to keep busy, because if I don't keep busy, I'll go crazy. Yeah, just a minute. That's my 3-year-old again. So, anyhow, time has just been going by so slow. I'll try and get some sleep. I've been having trouble sleeping. I even had a nightmare. I did get some sleep after we came home from the hospital. Would have been about 11 a.m. He would have died about 3:30 in the morning. And so I had a nightmare where I was all alone in our home, and I was feeling the same way I feel now, and I was calling his name, Eugene, 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 and I'm afraid to go to bed now. I don't want to have more nightmares, more dreams like that, because I won't be able to even break away from it, even in a dream, even in sleeping. I have this emotional pain. I didn't have it when I was at the hospital, but now that I'm at home, I have this terrible emotional pain in my chest. It's not a physical pain, it's emotional. And I still have the task up ahead. I'm not sure how to tell them, the kids. So, thank you for watching. Any support is greatly appreciated, because, as I said, we only have each other. And so, I don't have anyone else except my kids. So if you stuck with me this long, I greatly appreciate it while I do this outpouring of emotion and grief.
I'm crying.
Yes, I'm crying. Anyway,
Yeah.
so they're not sure what the cause was exactly yet. And, if you're not sure, I mean, if you don't know, if they don't know the cause, then, the police officers, they were in the kitchen, and they stayed there the whole time while we were in the hospital, keeping the area forensically.
She has text on the screen that says suspiciously standing guard. I mean, or they were just standing there. I don't know. You know, sometimes if you have like a guilty conscience or you're worried about something, somebody simply standing there could come off as standing guard or having an attitude or, you know, whatever. We all kind of respond to things a little differently. And I'm sure in a grief-stricken mindset, your emotions are even more all over the place.
I don't know, complete, until they heard, and the coroner said that he was going to go send my husband for an autopsy. So, the police were in the house, 2 policemen were in the house in our kitchen while my kids were at home, and later on my eldest and my second eldest joined me at the hospital. So that must have been weird, because we don't usually get visitors. Like I said, we don't have friends, and yeah, okay, where's your popcorn? And so then they had to kick us all out when they heard from the coroner that my husband was going to go for an autopsy. And they looked through the house. They were looking.
The text on the screen says the police investigated while we had to leave. I think it's really sad, because she says numerous times throughout these videos how she kind of just like, based on what I understand, she and her husband were just recluses. They didn't go anywhere. They didn't have any friends. They didn't talk to anybody aside from each other. And that to me is really sad. Because then when you're, you know, you lose your person, you literally don't have anybody to talk to. And I've said before, hey, my circle is tiny, very small, but I do have those few people that I can really count on. Like, God forbid if something ever happened, I know for a fact that I would not be going through it alone. And it makes me feel sadness for her that she's now all alone and still having to be a mom and go through her own set of emotions and grief, and it just sucks. It makes me feel sadness for her.
It was routine. They said, just in case there's, you know, something suspicious. They went in the rooms. They checked out everything. They asked me if I used drugs. They asked me if he used drugs, like street drugs. They read his notes, his love notes to me, and they just they didn't just shuffle a lot, but I know they were checking out, you know, the house, see if they can find like the smoking gun or something. But then after an hour, we were able to come back home. And
I think it's very interesting that she used the word "the smoking gun." I don't know, if police officers were in my house and my partner, you know, was literally dead on my kitchen floor, I don't think that police being in my house, I don't think that I would automatically go to, oh, they were looking for a smoking gun and standing guard. I just find the descriptors a little interesting, but let's keep going.
hopefully, yeah, the baby doesn't have a crib. None of our children have slept in a crib since the first one, and he only slept in like twice because it just didn't work. Every time I put him down in the crib, it wouldn't work. So then with the second one, we got a bassinet, and then when he got older, he laid in bed with me, and I breastfeed in bed. So I found that I'd get the most amount of sleep if the baby would sleep with me. I don't do drugs, I don't drink or anything like that. So I know he's there in bed with me. I'm not going to roll over and crush him or anything like that. So I know he's there. When I sleep, there's a part of me that's aware. I guess it's the same part that keeps you from rolling off a bed. You know that the edge is there. I know he's there. So
do you realize how many accidents happen every single year of babies or children, very small children, sleeping in bed with their parents? And you can say, oh, I know that he's there, but accidents happen all the time. This is literally why they call them accidents. So you know, do what you want, but these things happen literally, tragically, they happen all the time, where babies are in the bed with their parents and accidents happen. Parent rolls over, you know, and you can say, oh, I know this, I know that, but it's not foolproof.
I hope that I'm not going to have any more trouble, inconveniences from the police or anything. And I'm thinking that they might call, in the US it's called CPS, you know, like the baby police. Where I live, it's called
I don't think that I would call an investigation into my husband who tragically died an inconvenience unless I was being inconvenienced by authorities being in or around my home. I would think that I want to get to the bottom of what happened because I just lost the love of my life. But again, maybe that's just her way of dealing with trauma and pain. But I find that very interesting. I have many concerns about the descriptors that she uses throughout these videos that she posted.
Facts, Families, and Children's Services, because I didn't have the baby in a crib, and we have an unconventional lifestyle and schedule. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were notified and I get a knock on the door from them. And we've been through this before. When my years ago, we've been through this before, and they went through it all, and they didn't find any abuse or anything like that. And it was just a stupid reason that anyone can call, and they found nothing, of course, because we were a good family. So this time, if they come and they show up at my door this time, I'm not going to let them in. Before we used to think you had to, but I'm not going to let them in, and I'll have to get a lawyer this time because we've gone through enough, and we don't need this. We're a good family. There's no abuse. And hopefully I can then just get on with the arrangements for my husband, and they'll leave us alone. So if you stuck with me again this long, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
All right, so that's the end of the first video. Now let's go to her second video that was 6 days ago. It says 39 hours, my husband suddenly died, mom of 8 kids. This description box is the same as the last one. Couple afterthoughts from her first video. I wonder if her family is going to say anything publicly about all of this, because now this content is going viral. She's getting a lot of attention off of this, and she has mentioned her family. So I wonder if they're going to want to like come forward and share their side or anything along those lines. I will be interested in that. The second thing, when she said the baby police, I'm sorry, I had to kind of laugh to myself because that's just a really funny way to describe literally a full organization that is there to protect children, to call them the baby police, I just found that funny. When she wants to mention that they have an unconventional lifestyle, having an unconventional lifestyle is not why CPS or any authority would be upset with you or opening an investigation. Unconventional usually does not equate to mistreatment, neglect, or abuse, which is why these organizations get involved with families. They are not there because, oh, we see that the Smith family has an unconventional lifestyle, so let's go bother them and inconvenience their day. That it has nothing to do with an unconventional or conventional lifestyle. She also mentioned how CPS had been called on them before, but since they don't have any friends or family, it says a lot that, and so was it somebody from YouTube, because she has been uploading content previously, before all of this, to YouTube. It makes me wonder, why was CPS called on them before? If they have no friends or family, who called CPS on them before? The only other thing I wanted to say is how she says, we're not going to let them in, we're a good family, and there's no abuse going on here. Just to jump back to what I already said, CPS and these organizations are not only there for abuse. It can be emotional mistreatment, neglect in many different forms. It's not just kids being abused. And to say that you're not going to let them in, I think is sending the wrong message out to people that are literally there to protect your kids. You're not going to let them into your house. I don't know. For me personally, I would want to say, yes, everything is doing so well. Like, I take such great care of my kids. Here, let me prove it to you. Instead of saying, no, you're not allowed to come into my house. I just feel like that is sending the wrong message when you want them to know that you're an amazing mom. And even if you're going through a tough time, you can come on in and I'll give you the grand tour. This one has almost 88,000 views, and it has 2.9 thousand likes to 231 dislikes. It's about 30 minutes, but like I said, I do have these sped up, so let's start at the top.
It's been 39 hours since my husband suddenly passed away. I have 8 kids. My 2 eldest is 20 and 16, and we suddenly lost our dad. Yeah, now, I did make a video already explaining what happened. You can go back and watch that video. Thank you for clicking on this video, because I think that doing this will help me. It's an emotional outlet. So YouTube has become my emotional outlet, and what I'm going through, which is the hardest thing I have ever had to go through in my life. But he prepared us. He was always looking after us. So, sorry about my voice. And
didn't really seem like he prepared them very much at all based on her prior account. This sounds like a widow who was not prepared to lose her husband, who was 70 years old. They did not put prior plans into place. He did not plan his end of life care. He did not, they didn't have things put in place. So I'm not sure what she's talking about based on her own accounts, but let's keep going.
I left the closet open just to, stop bumping that. I left the closet open just to get rid of some of the echo. But here's the thing, what we did today, it was our first day since he passed. I made a plan that I talked about in the previous video of things that had to be done right away. My husband was on ODSP.
FYI, there's going to be a lot of blurring in these videos, so if there's a long section with a blur, that just means that her kids are in and out of the frame. I don't want them on my channel, so don't be confused. It was there by design, but if you see large chunks, that just means that in that part of the video, her kids are hopping in and out of the frame.
Stop bumping, okay? Sorry, the kids keep bumping the camera. My husband was on ODSP, and these two, they're too young to understand what's going on. They have no idea what I'm talking about. So we went to the bank account and I took out as much I could before they started charging me to it. So we do have a bit of savings, but I'm going to be cut off of his ODSP at the end of the month. ODSP is disability. I'm in Canada, so in Ontario, disability, ODSP. It's like Ontario Disability Support Program, I think. So that card was linked to ODSP. It was money that they would give him every month. And I'm going to try and take that out before they cancel it because it was money for him that he had let accumulate over the months. And so we had done groceries. Hang on, I got my list here. We did groceries. I got as much of our prescriptions that I could in advance while it was covered by his ODSP because I have no income. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I just get what I get from the government for the children, and and we have a bit of savings. So I don't want to use up our bit of savings. We need that for emergencies. I got a call from the coroner, and he said that he had a very large pneumonia on the right side of his lungs. Empress, please be quiet. Now, here's the thing. I only got about 6 hours sleep. We went to bed at 3 in the afternoon, and we were all exhausted. We had to do a bunch of errands today. So I woke up, and I was really, really missing my husband. And I was thinking earlier this morning, I had some not so great thoughts about now that I've lost the love of my life.
This is the thing that I've said. People become widows all the time. So I just don't understand where she's getting this information that once you're a widow, you just become thrown into the dirt, like, and nobody cares about you. Typically, some of those benefits should be going to the surviving spouse and or the kids. So I don't know, is it a narrative that she is pushing in order to make more money on social media? I don't know. Now, I want to make something very clear. Some people were ragging on her because she's using this as a way to make money. And even though I disagree with some of the things that are happening here, this video and the video that I just played are not monetized. They are not monetized videos. So as far as YouTube goes, so far, she's not making money off of the content that we have watched so far. But this whole idea of well, you're a widow now, so you're going to be blamed for your husband's death and kicked to the curb and you don't get any money is not the way that things work.
Yeah.
No. Now that I've lost the love of my life, what do I have to look forward to? I mean, I have our children, and our children are going to grow up. And hang on, baby. And here, baby, you draw on the floor. But hang on a second. So I'm back. The call from the coroner said he had a large pneumonia on the right side of his lung, which is probably because he was lying on the floor for a very long time. As I said in the last video, I couldn't wake him up. He was knocked out. He had taken his heavy pain relief pills, and I was waiting for him to sleep it off.
So he was laying on the floor for a really long time, and you're thinking that that caused pneumonia. Again, not a doctor, but that to me does not make any sense. It also doesn't make sense why you would leave your spouse laying on the damn floor for any extended period of time, even if you knew that they were using medications to make them sleepy, drowsy, and all of those kinds of side effects. Like, you don't just leave them laying on the floor when they have something coming out of their mouth. Like, that does not make any sense to me. And I always find this interesting, how people don't want to tell. It's like, she doesn't want to tell her kids that their dad died, but she's putting this stuff all over social media. Make it make sense.
So they're not sure what caused it still, so they took some samples and they're going to be doing some tests. And he said he'd call me back in a few weeks, it could be months, with the results. This morning I was thinking some bad thoughts about my peak of my life is over. The best part of my life is over. I'm 40 years old, and I was thinking that I just have to stay alive for another 40 years because my grandmother lived to be 82, and that just seems so long. It seems so long until we'll be back all together again in heaven.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm crying. Yes, I'm crying. I miss him so much. So I woke up missing him a lot, and I don't know what our life is going to be like now. There's an unknown, but I have this weight on my chest that's always there. I'm not getting much sleep. I'm not eating much. I have no family or friends that I've been busy with our family. We kept to ourselves. We've been busy raising our family, so we don't have friends, and we moved around, so we don't have any family members. I don't have many family members in Canada. I just had like my mom and my dad, but my dad passed away, and my aunt, and I don't talk to them because they didn't want me to marry my husband 20 years ago.
And I hate to say it like that, but like I said earlier, she has turned herself into a recluse, and that to me is very sad, because even when, you know, we all grow out of that period of time where we talk to our friends every single day and we go out with them every Saturday and all of that kind of stuff, but it is so important to at least have maybe one or two people that you talk to once in a while that are going to be there for you when stuff gets bad. Because everything else put aside, like I said, I feel sadness for her being in this position and being all alone, and having this mindset of, you know, she's just in it alone, she's sad, her life is over, and that's just what it is. And she's going to put it on YouTube and not tell her kids that their dad is dead. Very weird.
So they were trying to interfere with my marrying him, so even after we were married, they didn't accept it. They were trying to break it up, so I just stopped talking to all of my family. And I don't have his family because I'm not really close to them. He didn't really talk much to them throughout the years. So that's why I thought YouTube would be a good outlet. And we have each other. So I am very proud of my older boys. They've been doing so well. My 18-year-old boy, he's so responsible. And my 20-year-old, he's there for me to talk to. One of my biggest concerns is how they are going to manage with this, this new drastic change. But anyhow, that's my daughter there, my 3-year-old. She doesn't know what's going on. It's really hard. We were a happy family. And here's the thing.
Trauma dumping on your kids and telling them all of your emotions as a newer widow is asking for a toxic mother-son bond that could be fractured. And I'm not speaking out of turn or anything like that. I have seen it personally, in my real life. And trauma dumping on your kids and not allowing them to grieve is a very, very bad idea, my opinion.
This is why I had to get up out of bed, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep because they don't know what exactly caused it. And then they sent him for an autopsy. And I said in the last video that the police were at our house and they were looking through things, trying to find what I called the smoking gun. And there's a detective involved, and she asked me some questions, and the thing is that not now, Empress, or Passion.
Yeah.
What
What
really scared me is, what if she thinks that it's neglect? We all saw him there on the kitchen floor sleeping. You couldn't wake him up. He was knocked out. He was snoring, and his face was turned to the side, so the fluid that was coming out could drain. And my son is 20 years old. My second oldest is 18 years old. They're adults too. So my concern was she going to charge me with neglect or manslaughter or something like that?
Literally talking about neglect, and here we go with the slow zoom. Slow zoom sends me every time. I find it to be very weird as a viewer to see this, but let's hear what she has to say. She really, in a way, she's implicating herself in some of this, and I think that putting all this on the YouTube is a terrible idea, but she's not only done it once, she's done it multiple times, and it's wild. It's wild. I don't know.
We didn't understand what was going on with him on the floor. We had seen him, knocked out before with his pills. He was snoring loudly like he does when he takes his heavy pills.
Yeah.
Until he wasn't. He was very quiet, and that's when I called the ambulance.
Yeah.
And so is she gonna she going to charge all 3 of us, since we're all legally adult? Is she going to charge all 3 of us with manslaughter or neglect? I have a few things in my favor, though. One is I was not legally his caretaker.
But you saw him literally in your kitchen floor in this state, and you just thought that he was going to sleep it off. That is the weird part to me. Snoring and being knocked out on the kitchen floor and having something coming out of your mouth is not the same thing at all. It's very weird. She goes right into, I have these things in my favor. Let me tell you what I have working in my favor. It's a very, very strange kind of stance to put out there on social media. I don't know. Like, is this normal? Is this a normal set of reactions to somebody who is in her position? I'm not sure. I find it to be a little strange. But let's keep going.
You know, he managed his own pills. He managed his own doctor's appointments. I don't even have a driver's license. My 18-year-old has a driver's license, a full driver's license, so fortunately, he can take us to get the groceries and such. The other thing that I haven't...
So she talks about how her husband was so smart and so great and helped her prepare everything. Here's my thing. If you're married to a 70-year-old and that 70-year-old was helping you prepare for the possibility of living life without them, why on earth did this woman go 20 years without having her driver's license? That is the bare bones minimum of what you should have as a functioning adult. And so you're not literally relying on your husband, and now you're having to rely on your adult son to literally take you and get groceries. So you're telling me that your husband was this great guy who was helping prepare, but like, what was he helping prepare for? Sounds like to me he didn't prepare for a whole lot of anything.
My favor is the testimonies. If she talks to my son and our family, we had a good family. And now it's broken up. And I tried to tell myself, I'm sorry about all the ands, but I'm so nervous. I called.
What an alibi. If you talk to my literal son, he'll tell you that we had a good family. It's a little weird.
Well, I found the phone number for, in Ontario, it's pro bono, where you can get free legal advice. Sorry, that's free legal advice for people that don't have a lot of money, because I think I need it. The detective, it's up to her what she thinks. If she thinks that, you know, we neglected him, which we did not, but I know the house is dirty. I know the house is messy. My husband has not been able to do much for a long time. And like I said, we don't have friends or family members to come and babysit so we can clean up the house. It's just us, and now it's really just us. So for a long time, he was not able to do, to help out because of his back around the house. He is 70 years old, and you're so sweet. She's hugging my arm, my 3-year-old. So
I've mentioned this before, but 2 different things. We can talk about mess and we can talk about filth. They are not the same things. And when these agencies like CPS go into a home, they're not going to care about you know, toys all over the place, and you know, there's a pile of laundry that needs to be put away, or you know, maybe the trash needs to be taken out. That's not what we're talking about. We're literally talking about filth and things that have to do with improper hygiene and foodborne illnesses, and kids being able to you know, literally like contract illnesses from just simply living in this environment. Things like mold and just absolute filth. There's 2 different things. Like, somebody wants to be like, oh, well, my house is messy, so they're going to judge me on that. They're not judging you because your house is messy. They might judge you because your house is literally filthy.
I also think that because he was on some heavy pain relief, accidents can happen. I don't know if he maybe forgot, because some of the side effects is forgetfulness. Did he forget that he took his pills and take another batch by accident? Long time ago, like 30 years ago, he did have a history of attempted suicide. That was long before we ever met. Maybe, is a detective going to think that maybe this was some kind of attempted suicide? Is she going to think it's an accident, or is she going to think it's neglect? One of those three: accident, neglect, or attempted suicide. Personally, I don't think it was attempted suicide, because he wanted to live a long time so that he could see our baby get older. I still have not told the younger kids, because I spoke about it with my 18-year-old and my 20-year-old. My 20-year-old, he doesn't have much of an opinion, but my 18-year-old said, let them get adjusted to this new lifestyle a bit first.
I don't know. People, you know, of course, like, tell me how you guys feel down below about this, but I don't know. It just seems like a lot of, oh, am I going to be in trouble? Oh, are they going to do this? Well, I have this working in my favor. I have that working in my favor. It just seems like a very strange way to present a video of, my husband just died, but let me tell you about all of the ways that I think I'm going to get in trouble for it. Is that a guilty conscience speaking out indirectly? Tell me how you feel.
And his idea was not to tell them at all. I don't think that, he doesn't think that they would resent that, and gives them a chance to get a little adjusted before. Now, my 16-year-old, I told him just tonight as much as I could without...
Why on earth would you be listening to your 18-year-old son about what you should do with your other children? That sounds like a terrible, terrible idea, while you put everything out onto YouTube. What on earth? No.
Telling him all of the story, and I didn't lie. Everything I said was true. So what he knows is that he's in the next city at the hospital, which he is. They told me to contact a funeral home and make arrangements to have him picked up. I hate to make that call. We're trying to figure out what to do with him, because he didn't want to be buried. He didn't want to be cremated. He wanted his own mausoleum, which you can't do. So practicality, and he wanted his whole body to be intact, which the coroner assured me that the samples they take are very small, thin slices. So he's basically intact, so that's good. At least he got that. But I'm thinking practicality, we might have to just get him cremated. And my son, my 18-year-old, is like, well, can't we just like tell them for religion reasons? Because my husband did kind of have he was Christian, but he didn't follow a church. He had his own, he followed his own Christianity. And so I told my son, Julius, who was 20, that I don't think we can just like keep him in a box in the house, a coffin in the house, because he'll rot. And I think it's against the law too to have you know.
Can I get this one?
Yeah. The other thing I have going for me in terms of evidence, which I didn't tell the police or the detective about, because I didn't want them to take it the wrong way, is I do have a short video and some pictures that I took of him while he was lying on the floor. And the reason was because I wanted to show him when he woke up what kind of condition he's in. I wanted to show him what these pills do to him, so he's got to try and stay as far from them as possible. So that can show that, well, we were aware that he was there on the floor, and we just didn't know what was going on. We had been desensitized to this kind of knocking out. So here's my plan for day 2. Day 2 is I go back to the bank, I take out the rest of the money in his ODSP RBC account. I have to call the disability worker and tell her about it. And
that to me is very strange, that she literally took photos of him while he was lying on the floor in order to show him when he came to. Instead of taking photos, why weren't you on the phone with 911? Why were you worried about taking photos of this person who was literally dead on your kitchen floor? You wanted to take photos and allow him to sleep it off and take a nap. That's very odd to me. Now, as far as, you know, him wanting his own mausoleum, to me, that sounds like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, because you literally have a widow here who is worried about how she's going to feed her literal children, and she does not have a job. Him wanting his own mausoleum, I sure hope that she's not going to ask social media to pay for that. Because at this point in time, it sounds like her priorities are being able to literally pay her bills and put food on the table. So the mausoleum thing, I'm not sure if that is going to be an ask in the future. I guess we will see. But as far as taking photos of your literal dead spouse, I find that to be a huge red flag. And as far as saying, I have all, she keeps saying, I have all these things working in my favor. Again, choice words, very interesting to me, but let's continue.
Hopefully she can point me in the right direction now. I got a call pro bono, 9 a.m. to get a lawyer's advice. Hopefully she can tell me and settle my...
Being desensitized and literally taking photos of your dead spouse are two completely different things.
nerves. Hopefully she'll put me at ease that it's not likely that I would be charged. And we got to do a bit more groceries. I'm going to check for prescription coverage now for women in my situation that are now single. See, because the pharmacist told me that there might be some kind of coverage now for single moms. And I have to notify the car insurance that my son's now driving my 18-year-old. Now, we were paying about $1,000, a little over $1,000, because we had a pretty new car for a year, car insurance. Because now my son is going to be driving, that car insurance is going to be going up. So that's why it was very important to eliminate a lot of our unnecessary bills and streamline everything and get it down. Because my husband would pay it once a year to save money. And we'll have to pay that. I don't know how much it might go up to $2,000. I don't know, but... And so that's it for now. That's where things are at. If you stayed with me this long, sorry about all the ands. I'm sorry if you couldn't hear me too well. I think that this expression is important to help me. And someone's trying to come in. One of the kids. I thank you. I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. I thank you for any support. And I need people to comment, because everybody has gone through some kind of event where they've lost a family member or a friend, or they know someone, and I would appreciate it so much if you told me how things went, as kind of like a support group, I guess, you know, a support group doesn't have to necessarily be.
Do you not think that her kids popping their head in this room and seeing their mother recording herself crying is not odd to them? Do you? Here's the thing, I've talked about this before. Parents who treat their kids as if they're dumb. And I realize that kids don't know everything, but kids are much more intuitive than a lot of adults like to give them credit for. And these kids, based on their ages, I guarantee you they are not simply oblivious to everything that's going on. She has been saying too much. She has been talking to YouTube and making these videos and crying, and kids are way more intuitive than obviously what this woman thinks they are. And I think that it's absolutely heartbreaking that she's choosing to not tell them and instead make a bunch of YouTube content about it. I think that's the sad part in this.
Going through it right now, you know, but has experience. I need that input. So if you could please, you know, comment at the bottom of the video. Everything is appreciated. If you like the video, or subscribe. I really need that support. So thanks again for watching. I'll be in the next video. I'll be letting you know what's going on as it goes on. Thanks for watching again. Bye. I forgot to say a few things. I really appreciate you, because, as I mentioned, I think this would be good for me going through this rough time. I appreciate everybody, every one of you who watches and gives me your feedback, your advice. I appreciate all of it. I forgot to mention what I told my 16-year-old now. So I told him tonight I told him that his dad, that the doctor at the hospital told me he might not be the same man again, which is true, because we don't know how long he...
So still sheltering her 16-year-old from knowing that his father is literally dead, and choosing to make content instead of being transparent with a literal 16-year-old. I don't know. Say what you will about the age thing, and I think every parent has a little bit of a different perspective on that. But I think that not telling a 16-year-old boy that his father is dead is absolutely insane.
Didn't have, sorry, that's my kids. I don't know, nobody knows how long he didn't have enough oxygen going to his brain for. I told him that he was in the city next over at the hospital there, which he is. I told him that he's not getting better.
Here's the thing. My mic is going to die in a couple of minutes, so I want to get through this other video that she posted 5 days since my husband suddenly died, mom of 8 kids. I want to get through this. This is where people really had their red flags go up. And the reason is because in the beginning, she shows the screen of her iPhone, and the date on the iPhone is actually like July 22nd or something like that. So that's when people started to put together that, wow, okay, so she's uploading these videos now, making it seem like all of this is happening right now, but lo and behold, her husband actually died in July. And of course, I'm going to play a few minutes of this, but here is my thoughts. As far as her pre-recording these and choosing to post them current day, I don't think that it's that big of a deal if it had been transparent and clear for the viewers initially. The problem is that she was posting these as if everything was happening in real time. And then we get to this third video in her little series, and she posts that, and then people start to put 2 and 2 together. They start to have questions, and as I always say, trust is broken. And there's always that point in time in a YouTuber's, kind of journey online where it's like, okay, that's the point where you broke trust with your subscribers. And once you break trust, people are going to dive into your whole thing, A to Z, 1 to a million. And that's exactly what happened. Now, she has owned the fact that, yes, these are pre-recorded and so on and so forth, but it's made a lot of people have many questions about everything else. Like, why is she kind of implicating herself? Why is she so worried about possibly being charged? Why did she allow her husband to lay in the damn kitchen floor with things coming out of his mouth and not getting him help instead of taking videos to show him when he came to? Just a lot of questions and concerns. This description box says, my husband passed away July 17th, 2023. She finally is being honest about it. But let's get through a few minutes of this, and then I will give you guys my final thoughts.
5 days since my husband passed away. I kind of have the shakes a little here. It's 3:25 in the morning. I got up at 2 a.m. and it's been 3 days since my last video, and the reason why I am putting this out there is because I think it'll help me a lot with trying to get through this very difficult time. It's the most difficult time I've ever had to face in my life. My husband, who was 70, he passed away suddenly, and there's no will, and I don't have any family members to go to. Like I said in one of my previous videos, there isn't anybody. I don't have any friends, I don't have any family members or his family members to go to. It's just
there could have been other measures put in place, like making sure that she is able to drive a vehicle, making sure that there is a will, making sure that if he wanted his mausoleum, then pay for your mausoleum, make sure that you have pre-arrangements done instead of, telling your wife, well, this is what I want, and here's a whole bunch of other problems that you're going to have to deal with. Anyway.
I haven't told my children yet that my husband's dead, their father is dead. And that's because I'm trying to give them time to ease into this new situation, this new lifestyle. As far as they think right now, they think he's still in the hospital. To them right now, they think this is normal, that daddy's in the hospital, and they think he's getting looked after. He is still at the hospital, but you know, they had to do an autopsy, and that's been done now, like the day after they did the autopsy. So it's been 4 days now, and he's been there at the hospital, I guess just in the morgue waiting. I've had to contact a funeral home, and all of us frantically cleaned up the house on Wednesday. I shared with you my plans, what I did Monday, what I did Tuesday. Wednesday, we frantically cleaned the house because I spoke to a family lawyer, and she told me that they're coming in the house no matter what. Now, the reason why I didn't want them to come in the house initially was because it was really messy and really dirty. So far, they haven't been asking me a lot, where's Daddy, which is good.
I'll include a couple clips. I'm really worried about my mic dying, so I'm going to try to wrap this up here, and this video is probably already way longer than it should be. But she talks about the mausoleum basically being a reality, which, you know, hey, if I was in that position, I would rather not go that route and be able to use that money for things like groceries and to take care of my 8 kids that I'm, you know, left behind with, or at least 6 that are young and still really counting on me and my support. I feel for her, and I understand that having an outlet is vital, but I just have concerns about not telling your kids but making all of this content, and me kind of thinking years from now, how are they going to feel seeing this? And this is not like a normal family vlogger situation. Like, you literally didn't tell your kids that their dad died, and then you went on to build a Patreon and a YouTube channel off of that alone, and we were living in the same house with you and you weren't telling us. So that part I find to be possibly very tragic years from now. So, you know, she also kind of reiterates her worry about possibly being in trouble for his passing, and also talks about how, you know, they were cleaning the house and all of this kind of stuff for CPS to visit because she has to actually let them in the house and all of that kind of stuff. Again, I talked about that earlier. CPS is not worried about having a messy house. They are worried about your kids actually being healthy, happy, intact, and not in a filthy environment. They're not worried about mess usually. But either way, I will include some clips at the end of this video, and I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. I might make a part 2 on this if y'all show interest, so we'll just kind of see where it goes. But have you heard about this? Evidently, the YouTube algorithm is pushing her videos out to a lot of people because the conversation is growing, and a lot of people have said, yeah, I saw her on my YouTube recommended, here are my thoughts, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's enough for today. So if you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
My husband, I told you, didn't want to be buried. He didn't want to be cremated. He wanted to be in a mausoleum. And he mentions that on one of the videos I posted where he's talking about zombie movies. He mentions he wants a mausoleum. Now, I thought a mausoleum would cost like $100,000 because I was looking at like those individual ones, like the stone ones in the cemetery. And so we don't have $100,000. But a mausoleum, I found out yesterday, could be like $8,000 and up. It's very, very important to us to do this because half of us were undecided. 2 of us, our elder sons, my 3 elder sons and myself, 2 of us were for burial because they saw cremation as a way of reducing the body or destroying the body. The other 2 of us, my eldest and I, we were for cremation because we wanted to have him with us in the home. This mausoleum is what he wanted. It's really the best solution. We might be able to manage somehow. I also have to contact an estate lawyer because there was no will, and we have our 8 children still, so young, and I want to know if the stuff that he has his name on, can I take that money out? I mean, I'm naturally his next of kin, or I'm naturally would be the power of attorney. Am I allowed to take that out? I don't want to get charged for fraud or anything. That would be terrible. Going in jail at this terrible time, I'm not going to take that risk. So I'll call the pro bono or whatever it's called to talk for low-income people, to talk to a lawyer for free. It's 4 a.m. in the morning and the police came to my door. Somebody that watched my video called them, and the police went and they looked at my videos on YouTube and they came to check on me. I was so relieved when they told me that I didn't have anything to worry about, that I wasn't in trouble, because that was what I first thought when they came. Is I thought, oh no, the results came back and there's something not right. The results from the autopsy, that is, and I was afraid that they were here because I was in trouble. So they said I wasn't in trouble, thank God, and that somebody had called them that had seen my video the 39 hours after, and they just came to check to see if I was okay, and it was very comforting. They were understanding, and they said that anybody would have those kinds of thoughts after something like that happened, and they were comforting.